Good evening. Tilini, can you hear me? Am I audible? Shani, Tilini, can you please tell me? Okay. So I think people are still joining. So let's give them about 10 minutes and we'll start. Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? Can someone reply on the chat box or can just talk also if you unmute? Okay, right. So today we will be discussing about how we can manage the communications that happen within a project. So under this, we will be basically looking at what type of a role a project manager will have to play when it comes to the communication, and what are the different communication strategies. And at the end, we'll do some say couple of exercises on how we can effectively communicate. Right. Can you hear me again? What is happening here? Okay. Okay. Uh, so any project, if they do not have effective communication within the project team as well as with their uh, stakeholders, then the project can easily run into having issues. So to have effective project communications, uh, you need to be able to set up the communication process, which means you need to have a clear communication plan, and that will help you to manage how you are communicating and how frequently. So if you have effective project communications, you can make sure that the right person receives the right information at the time and at a cost-effective level. So when you talk about communication, communication doesn't just provide information, it also conveys motivation, right? Especially when it comes from the project manager to the rest of the project team. It will also carry or say, it will also try to motivate the employees or the project team into doing their work. So when you talk about the communication process, it is not just trying to get through a message to another person, but it is also a source of control, right? It is a way that you can maintain control over the project. And when you look at project communications these days, a majority of the communications happen through email, right? And therefore, writing proper emails and having formats that can be followed, that can be used, is becoming increasingly important. Okay. So when we talk about managing communications, we say it can be a formal or informal process on how you are going to conduct or supervise the exchange of information either upward, downward, laterally, or diagonally, right? So managing communications is one of the main challenges that a project manager will have to face. And as I said, we need to have a project communication plan. So this communication plan will include the email protocol, right? Uh, what information needs to be sent to each person, right? And how you are going to word it, uh, and also how you are going to communicate effectively as the project is going to mature. Okay. So when you are trying to create the project communication plan, there are a few questions that needs to be answered. So you have to first get an idea about what are you trying to communicate, what different types of information are you trying to communicate with different people, and then how often are you going to do it, right? Sorry, when must it be done? So specific, you have to identify when the communication should happen. Is it at the end of the year, end of the quarter, or at say at relevant milestones of the project? And how will the communication be accomplished, right? Are you going to send an email, or is it a formal letter with original signatures, or are you going to have a meeting where you are going to disclose certain information to the participants? And also you have to have know how often the communication needs to occur. So for certain stakeholders, you might be communicating with them much frequently, and for others, you might be doing it uh, less frequently, like maybe once in a quarter or so. And for more powerful stakeholders, you might have more frequent communications with them. And also you need to decide on who you are going to communicate to, right? Who is going to be the receiver. Okay. So your communication plan would look like something like this. So you have several, say, documents that you will be using to communicate. You have the management status report, right? And for every communication, there is an owner or the person who is going to be in charge of that particular communication. And then the medium, we'll talk about how you are going to do the communication. Is it going to be an email or a meeting or a one-on-one? And then you have the frequency, how frequently you're going to do the communication. So in the management status report, it's going to be a monthly communication. And to whom are you going to send it? So if you take the management status report, it is going to be sent to the sponsor, right? Another example, team member status collection. Uh, so this is going to be done one-on-one, right? And then the frequency will be bi-weekly, and the communications are sent to the project manager. Okay, so likewise, you can come up with a project communication plan, right, which will describe what information is going to be, say, communicated, in what medium, in what frequency, and to whom. Okay. So when you take the communication channels, there are basically four parties that a project manager will be communicating with. You have the upward communication, that is to the top management of the organization, the downward communication to the subordinates and the project office personnel, And when you come to the lateral communication, there are two groups. You have the peers and other functional groups. And on the other hand, you have the friends, social groups, and who are in formal and informal organizations. So in the center, the central role in project communications is going to be played by the project manager. The project manager will be what we say the communication hub of the project. So he or she will be receiving, processing, and distributing the information across different stakeholders in the project. Okay, so let's go through each of these uh, groups of communication that the project manager has to maintain. So the first one is the upward communication. Upward communication will happen from the project manager to the senior management of the organization. So the purpose of this upward communication is to basically to send status reports about the project, about the progress of the projects. And also another purpose is to escalate if there are any risks or issues that the project is facing. And also they will communicate with the senior management when they want to get approval for certain things, as well as when they want the senior management to take certain strategic decisions as well. If we take an example, you might be submitting a progress report or requesting a budget approval, right? So these are this upward communication is going to be critical for the governance and the decision making. Then you have the downward communication. So downward communication will happen from the project manager to the team members or the project staff, right? So when you look at the purpose, these communications can happen in order to assign tasks and responsibilities to the team members. They can provide instructions as well as guidance to the team members. And you can also communicate goals, timelines, as well as what is expected out of the team, right? So you can, as an example, you can be giving work packages, or you can be clarifying what the deliverables should be, right? So this downward communication is going to be important because it's going to ensure the effective execution and coordination in the project. Then you have the lateral communication. So the first group of where the lateral communication uh, happens is within the organization itself internally, where you have peers as well as other functional groups, right? So the communication here happens between the project manager and the other department heads or the peers, right? And the purpose here is to make sure that you are coordinating across the different functions of the organization, as well as you will be trying to resolve any interdepartmental dependencies. So especially if you are sharing resources, you will have to resolve any issues. Say, for example, a project manager might be working with the procurement department to make sure that they purchase the materials that are required for the project. Okay, so this will help support the integration across the whole organization. Then we have the external lateral communication. So this will usually include the social networks that the project manager will deal with. So this will include external stakeholders, informal groups or other networks. You will have your clients, your suppliers, your friends and professional contacts will be included in this category. So the purpose of communication in this case is to try and build relationships with the external stakeholders as well as the professional contacts, right? You can use it to influence the stakeholders, right, by making them understand how what would be the best decision. And you can gain informal insights from your friends and professional contacts as well as support in managing the project. We say, for example, if you when you are networking with the industry contacts, right, you will be able to get insights into how to solve certain issues, right? And it will also help you to enhance the influence and the stakeholder management as well. So those are the four communication channels that a project manager will be dealing with. Okay. So when you look at the communication patterns that happens between customers and contracts, there are three types of communication patterns, right? You have communication between the project sponsor of the customer and the project sponsor from the contractor side. So usually this communication is going to be more informal and will involve things like, say, involve building relationships between these two parties. Then the more formal communication will happen between the project managers or the contract officers, right? This is where the actual formal exchange of information will happen within the organization. And there will be further informal communication between the employees of the two organizations. So employees, when they communicate with other employees, they can share certain information which is important for each other, as well as it can also be a source of information which will be useful in solving problems in the project. Okay. So when you look at the communications, not all communications should bypass the formal channels, right? So if you take, for example, the employees, if they directly negotiate scope changes, there can be a confusion in how they on how what changes would be done, and it can violate the contracts, and it can also lead to scope creep, right? So say cases like scope changes, it needs to happen through formal channels. But of course, if you try to formalize everything, all communications, it will slow down the work that you are doing in the project, and it will also try reduce the collaboration that you can achieve between the two organizations. So in order to have effective projects, you need to balance the formal communication in order to maintain control over the project. And you need to have the informal communication so that you can increase the efficiency of the project as well as maintain good relationships as well. Okay. Any questions up to now? Any questions? Anything you want to clarify? And someone please respond. No? You can, if you have any questions, you can put it on the chat box. Okay, so let's go ahead. Right. So when we look at the total communication process, right, we deal with uh, sending, encoding a message and sending that message to the other person who will be decoding it, right? So when you do this, when this message passes from one person to the other, we go through two screens. We have what we call the personality screen and the perception screen, right? Uh, so let's see what this personality screen will be on the side of the source, right? And the perception screen will be on the side of the receiver. Okay, so let's start with the perception screen. So perception screen talks about the perception barrier that we have, which means that individuals, they can look at the same message and interpret this in different ways, right? So that will form the perception about the message that they have received. So what are the factors that is going to influence this perception? It will depend, it mostly depend on the level of education of the individual who is receiving the message, as well as the region of experience. What kind of a experience does this individual have? So we need to try and reduce this perception barrier as much as possible, right? So in order to do that, you will need to use words that have very precise meaning when you are communicating with the other party, right? So there are some people use words which can be interpreted in a different way, which will give two different meanings sometimes. So you have to be very precise with what words you are going to use and make sure that it will only generate one meaning. Then we have the personality screen. So the personality screen is on the sender's side, right? So the personality screen will talk about the personality and the interests of the sender. So it will include the likes and dislikes of the individuals, which can affect the communication. And people, we know, they tend to listen carefully to topics of interest, but if it is unfamiliar or boring, they will not usually listen, right? So a sender will always have their own attitudes, their emotions, as well as different biases as well. So as a result, what can happen is it can kind of change the interpretation of the message that they are sending. So there can be a twist or in the sense of the interpretation. And people with fearful or strong love or hate emotions usually will tend to protect themselves by changing the communication process. And when an individual has strong emotions, right? They will not be able to comprehend and think about what needs to be communicated to the other party, right? So they will tend to include their own emotions, their own ideas in it as well. Okay. So there are certain factors that will control the communication environment. You have internal as well as external factors. So when you look at the internal factors, there can be power games, right? Certain people will have their own agendas and they will want to say control certain aspects of the communications that happen. Certain part people can withhold information without giving out all the information that is required by the project teams or the stakeholders involved. And they can try to, some people can try to manage the entire project by just sending memos, right? So sending memos will not be a very effective way of managing the entire project. So you need to resort to other strategies like meetings and one-on-ones, which will be much more effective when they are trying to manage the project. There can be certain reactive emotional behavior of some people. Some people might send mixed messages, which will include positive as well as negative, as well as their own ideas, right? And some people will prefer indirect communications. So they will go through another person to send a message to a stakeholder or anyone else. And there can be a certain amount of stereotyping when it comes to different communication methods and how people use them. And you can be transmitting partial information. Not all the information will be available to the receiver. And sometimes they might be blocking certain receivers or senders and will have selective perception, right? Which means they will, or in a case where there are multiple meanings, they might select based on what they want to go ahead with. So when you look at the external factors, the business environment will, of course, affect the project communications. So in a fast-moving business environment, it will be much more crucial that you also maintain the same level of communications within the project. The political environment can affect this, the economic climate, your regulatory agencies, as well as the state-of-the-art technology that you are that will be available for in the market. And there can be other factors that will affect the communication process. So you can have logistics or geographic separation. Yeah. Logistics or geographic separation, which means you will have communication happening between people who are in different geographic locations, right? And you can have different personnel can have different contact requirements, and you can have group meetings. Group meetings will usually say enhance the communication between the project team. The telephone can also be used. Nowadays people don't use the telephone that much. And then the correspondence, right? How frequently and what amount of communication you are, say, having with a particular party. Right. So when you look at the communicating role of a project manager, right? The project manager will use communications in order to provide the project with directions, right? So this will include decision making, authorizing the work, directing all the activities that happen within the project, and negotiating with external parties as well as the internal, say, the project team as well, and also reporting, which will include the briefings as well. Okay. So a project manager, one of the main things that he will do is attending meetings, right? So when attending meetings, they need to make sure that they are, say, capturing all the ideas as well as the decisions that are made at each of these meetings. And you have the overall project management will be handled by the project manager, and this communicating role will help them to do the overall management. And also the marketing and selling aspects of the project will be managed by the project managers, and the public relations will be handled by the project managers, as well as managing the records such as meeting minutes, the memos, newsletters, reports, any specifications, as well as contract documents. All these things will be managed by the project managers. Okay. Uh, do you have any questions up to now? Any questions? Okay. Right. So what can you do in order to improve the communications in a project? So the first one is you need to obtain feedback, right? When you do send a communication, you have to get the feedback from the receiver in more than one form. So initially, you might want to get an acknowledgement of over receiving the information, and then their ideas and comments will also be need to send in as feedback. Then you have to establish multiple communication channels. Why is this important? So you have to have several ways on how you can communicate with a person. In case one communication channel fails, you should have a backup on how you are going to get in touch with another party. Then you can use face-to-face communications if possible. So the more face-to-face communications you have, the less you will have lesser misunderstandings, and if there are any perception gaps, it can be managed very easily. And you also need to have an idea about how sensitive the receiver is to the communications that you are making, right? So you have to make sure that you are using proper terms which are accepted and acceptable to the receiver as well. And you have to be aware of the symbolic meanings, like the expressions on people's faces when they receive information. So that will tell you a lot more than what their words would tell you. And you need to communicate at the proper time with your stakeholders to make sure that they are receiving timely information, and that will help you to get their feedback as well as their approval on the work that is being done. And you need to reinforce the words with actions. So whatever communications that you send out in terms of words, you need to back that up with the actions that you may take in the project, right? And in terms of language, you need to make sure that you are using simple language in even in English. Try to use simple terms as much as possible so that even a person who doesn't have a very high level of language capabilities will be able to understand you, right? And also you can use redundancy whenever possible, right? So if you are not sure that one way is going to be communicating in a particular way is going to be clear to the receiver, you can be redundant and use another different way as well. So you can say the same thing in two different ways, right? And that will help the receiver in understanding what you are trying to say. Okay, so I have a small in-class activity for you all, right? So this is a email that has been sent uh, uh, to a external contractor, right? Can you tell me from a project communication perspective, what is wrong with this email, right? Just read through the email and try to identify what is wrong with this email, right? Um, can take about 15 minutes and try to come up with the issues in this. Okay. I think all of you all might have say identified some uh, issues in this email. So let's take a look at the issues in here. So there is no formal authority. We don't know who is sending it. Is it a project manager or a sponsor? And it seems to be bypassing any formal communication channels, and therefore it will be violating the project governance. So there is no documentation of the decision. It says we discussed yesterday, but who is we? And there is no formal approval or record, and therefore there can be accountability issues. Then the third one is it is talking about a scope change without any process. It's talking about introducing a new feature which will represent a scope creep, and there is no impact analysis on how it is going to affect the cost, time, as well as the resources that are required. Then it has an unrealistic and informal tone. Terms like shouldn't be too difficult, it would be great if, right? So there it lacks the clarity and the professionalism as well. And the clear requirements have not been provided. So what exactly do you mean by AI recommendation feature? There is no specification attached, no acceptance criteria is mentioned here, and there is no alignment with the contract, right? So it should go through the project manager, from one project manager to the other. So there is no direct instruction to the contractor, and there is no timeline clarity as well. It says before next week, so it's a vague deadline. So there are no milestones or the deliverables of the no reference to the milestones or the deliverables of the project. Okay, so these are the issues that you have in the project with the email that you previously saw. Anything you want to add to this list? Anything you want to add to the list? Okay, right. So in the next step, I want you to try and rewrite this email correctly using the proper authority, the formal tone. You have to clarify the scope and make it a more structured request. Can you try to do that? Can take about 20-25 minutes and try to rewrite the email, and please send it on the chat box once you complete that email. Okay. So thank you. I have received several answers. So it would look something like this. This is an example. So your answer can be a little bit different, right? So this goes as following our internal discussion that customer team is considering the inclusion of a IA-based recommendation feature for the mobile application. At this stage, we would like to formally request an evaluation of this proposed change. Specifically, could you please provide feasibility assessment of the feature, estimated impact on the project scope, timeline, and cost, and any technical or resource implications? Based on your assessments, we will proceed with the necessary internal approvals before confirming any changes to the project scope, right? So likewise, you will need to formally say ask them to include as well as evaluate the proposed change, right? And you can specify the date where you want the like when you want the response from the team. Okay, so this is basically what we can do. Okay, do you have any questions on what we have done today up to now? No questions? Right. So I have provided a case study on LMS. Please take a look, read that case study, and there are some questions at the end of the case study and try to answer them. It can take about half an hour to 45 minutes, and then we'll discuss the answers. Okay, I hope all of you all have tried to read the case study and answer the questions. So I will send you the a model answer so you can check your answers as well. Give me a minute. So I have sent the model answers through the chat box. You can download this and you can check your answers against these model answers. Do you have any questions on what we have done today? Anything that you want to discuss? Okay, so if you don't have any questions, we can wrap up the session for today. And so next week, most probably you will have a class for the week that we missed, right? So you will get communication about it very soon, about the date. Okay, thank you so much and have a good night. If you want to ask anything, I'll be around for a few minutes.